The warning alarms echoed through the dark halls of Fortress Prime, the massive space station that served as the headquarters of the Deathworld Alliance. Every species in the galaxy knew about this place. Most feared it. The civilized worlds called it a den of monsters and killers. They were not entirely wrong. Prime Keth stood before the great viewing window, his scaled hands clasped behind his back. His yellow eyes watched the distant stars waiting. Behind him, the Alliance Council argued in their usual manner, loud, angry, and ready to fight at any moment. "This is clearly a trap," growled Commander Vex, his forearms crossed over his armored chest. "No civilized species has ever offered us friendship. Why would these humans be different?" The other council members nodded in agreement. There was Tara, whose people came from a world of endless storms. Her blue skin crackled with natural electricity when she was angry, which was often. Beside her sat Old Tom, a being whose race had evolved in the crushing depths of a high-gravity world. His bones were like metal, his muscles like steel cables. "Maybe they want something from us," suggested Dr. Nina, the Alliance's chief scientist. Her people had survived on a world where the very air was poison. She spoke through a breathing mask that filtered the station's atmosphere. "What could humans possibly want from the Deathworld Alliance?" Prime Keth turned from the window. His voice was deep and calm, cutting through the noise of the argument. "They want to join us." The council fell silent. In the history of the Deathworld Alliance, no species had ever asked to join them. The Alliance had been formed by outcasts, by beings whose worlds were too dangerous for normal life. The civilized galaxy had pushed them to the edges of space, calling them monsters and barbarians. "Join us?" Commander Vex laughed, but there was no humor in it. "These humans live on a garden world. They probably drink water that falls from the sky and breathe air that doesn't burn their lungs. What would they know about death worlds?" Prime Keth walked to the center of the council chamber. On the floor, a holographic display showed the human ship approaching their territory. It was called the Resilience, and it was unlike any ship the Alliance had seen before. It was not built for war, like their vessels. It was not covered in armor plating or bristling with weapons. Yet something about it made even the battle-hardened Alliance members feel uneasy. Their message was simple, Prime Keth said, his voice echoing in the chamber. They said they bring a gift. A living gift. They said they understand what it means to fight for survival every day. Dr. Nina leaned forward in her chair. "What kind of living gift?" "Our sensors detect complex biological signatures, but we cannot identify what they are carrying." "That is what worries me," Commander Vex said. He stood and paced around the chamber like a caged predator. Unknown biological signatures could mean anything. Disease, weapons, some kind of alien creature designed to destroy us from within. Tara's skin sparked with blue electricity. "If they try to trick us, we will show them why the galaxy fears the Deathworld Alliance." Old Tom's voice was like grinding stone. "My people have a saying, trust is earned with blood. These humans have not bled for us. They have not proven themselves in battle. Why should we trust them?" Prime Keth understood their concerns. The Deathworld Alliance had survived by being suspicious of everyone and everything. In the outer rim of the galaxy, trust was a luxury they could not afford. But something about the human message had intrigued him. There was a quality in their words, a tone that reminded him of his own people's struggle for survival. "Because," Prime Keth said slowly, "they are not asking us to trust them. They are asking us to judge them." The council members exchanged glances. This was different. Usually, species that contacted the Alliance either wanted to trade weapons or hire them as mercenaries. Nobody had ever offered gifts or friendship. Commander Vex stopped pacing. "What do you mean, judge them?" They said in their message that they understand isolation. They said they know what it feels like to be considered dangerous by those who do not understand strength. Prime Keth activated the holographic display, showing the human message that had arrived 3 days ago. The image of a human appeared in the center of the room. It was Captain Rick Torres, commander of the Resilience. He looked ordinary, 2 arms, 2 legs, no natural armor or weapons. His skin was soft-looking, not scarred by acid rain or radiation. Yet his eyes held something that the Alliance members recognized, the hard look of someone who had seen death and refused to surrender to it. People of the Deathworld Alliance, the recorded message began. We are humans from the planet Earth. We have watched from afar as the galaxy has pushed you to its edges, calling you monsters and criminals. We know this feeling. We have been called dangerous too. We wish to offer you a gift, life from our world. We believe you will understand its value better than anyone else in the galaxy. The message ended, leaving the council in silence. Finally, Dr. Nina spoke. There is something strange about their biology. Our long-range scans of their ship show that humans are different. Their life signs are unlike anything we have seen. Different how? Prime Keth asked. Stronger than they should be. Their bodies show signs of adaptation to extreme conditions, but their planet appears to be a paradise world. It makes no sense. Commander Vex slammed one of his fists on the table. This is exactly why we should not trust them. Nothing about them makes sense. They could be spies from the core worlds, sent to infiltrate our alliance. Or, said Old Tom thoughtfully, they could be telling the truth. Perhaps there is more to these humans than we understand. Prime Keth made his decision. As the leader of the Deathworld Alliance, it was his responsibility to protect his people. But it was also his duty to recognize potential allies. In the harsh reality of the Outer Rim, allies were more valuable than weapons or territory. We will meet with them, he announced. But we will be ready for anything. Commander Vex, prepare our defense fleet. If this is a trap, we will show them why Deathworld warriors are feared throughout the galaxy. Commander Vex grinned, showing his sharp teeth. My ships are already in position, Prime Keth. If these humans try anything, they will not live to regret it. Dr. Nina, I want full scans of their ship and cargo the moment they enter our space. If their gift shows any signs of being a weapon, we destroy them immediately. Dr. Nina nodded. Our sensors will be watching every molecule of their ship. Prime Keth looked around at his council, beings from worlds that would kill most species, in minutes. They had survived because they were strong, suspicious, and willing to fight for every breath. But they had also survived because they recognized strength in others. Tomorrow we will see what these humans truly are, he said. If they are enemies, we will crush them. If they are what they claim to be, then perhaps the Deathworld Alliance is about to grow stronger. As the council dispersed to prepare for the meeting, none of them could imagine that the next day would change everything they thought they knew about survival, strength, and what it truly meant to be dangerous in an unforgiving galaxy. The human ship Resilience docked with Fortress Prime exactly at the agreed time. Captain Rick Torres stepped onto the Alliance station wearing only a simple uniform. No armor, no weapons, no protection against the toxic atmosphere that most Alliance members needed filters to breathe. This alone made Commander Vex suspicious. How is he breathing our air? Vex whispered to Prime Keth as they watched the humans walk down the docking ramp. Perhaps their masks are very advanced, Prime Keth replied, though he could see no breathing equipment on the humans at all. Ambassador Vale followed Captain Torres along with Dr. Lin, their scientist. The 3 humans looked calm and relaxed, as if they were visiting a peaceful trade station instead of the most dangerous fortress in the galaxy. This made the Alliance members even more nervous. Welcome to Fortress Prime, Prime Keth said formally. His voice echoed through the docking bay, where dozens of Alliance warriors stood ready for trouble. Ambassador Vale smiled, a strange expression that the Alliance members had never seen before. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us, Prime. Keth, we know trust is not given easily in your part of the galaxy. Trust is earned, Commander Vex said coldly. Show us this gift you have brought. The humans exchanged glances. Captain Torres nodded to Dr. Lin, who activated a small device. We would be honored to show you. But first we should explain what you are about to see. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Dr. Nina's voice crackled over the communication system. Prime Keth, emergency in the sensor bay. You need to see this immediately. The Alliance leaders rushed to the sensor room, the humans following calmly behind them. Dr. Nina stood before a wall of monitors, her face pale behind her breathing mask. "What is it?" Prime Keth demanded. "The readings from their cargo bay," Dr. Nina said, her voice shaking. "Prime Keth, their cargo is screaming." The monitors showed wave after wave of electromagnetic signals coming from the human ship. The patterns were unlike anything the Alliance had ever seen. Chaotic, intense, and constant. The ship's computer had translated these signals into sounds, and the result was terrifying. Through the speakers came what sounded like cries of pain, wails of agony, and screams of fear. The sounds were so intense that several Alliance members had to cover their ears. "What are you doing to those creatures?" Tara shouted, her skin crackling with angry electricity. "What kind of monsters are you?" Commander Vex drew his weapon, pointing it at the humans. "This ends now. You are torturing living beings." But the humans remained calm. Ambassador Vale stepped forward, showing no fear of the weapons pointed at him. "We understand your concern, but please let us show you the truth. What you are hearing is not what you think it is. Those are screams of pain." Old Tom's voice boomed through the room. "We know the sound of suffering." "Yes," Dr. Lin said, quietly. "Your sensors are very sensitive. They can detect biological processes that most species cannot even imagine. But you are interpreting the signals incorrectly." Prime Keth held up his hand for silence. Despite his anger, he was curious. "Explain." Dr. Lin activated her device again. "Your sensors are detecting the electromagnetic signatures of life from our world. But what you call screaming, we call living." The humans led the Alliance members to the cargo bay of the Resilience. Commander Vex kept his weapon ready, expecting to find cages full of tortured animals. Instead, he found something that made no sense. The cargo bay was filled with what looked like a garden. Green plants grew in containers, their leaves moving gently in the recycled air. Small animals moved freely in enclosures that seemed more like playgrounds than prisons. Birds flew in large, open spaces. Everything looked peaceful and healthy. "This is impossible," Dr. Nina whispered. "Our sensors show massive biostress indicators. These creatures should be dying in agony." Dr. Lin walked to one of the plant containers. "This is a simple oak tree from Earth. It is young, healthy, and growing well. Your sensors detect its photosynthesis, the process by which it turns sunlight into energy. To you, this process creates electromagnetic signatures that seem like screaming." She moved to another container. "These are roses. They are producing oxygen as a waste product. The chemical reactions in their cells create the patterns your sensors interpret as cries of distress." Ambassador Vale approached a small enclosure, where a white rabbit sat calmly eating green leaves. "This is a rabbit. It is processing food in its stomach, its heart is pumping blood, its brain is sending signals throughout its body. Every living process creates electromagnetic waves. Your sensors are so sensitive that you can detect life itself." The Alliance members stared in disbelief. Commander Vex lowered his weapon slowly. "You mean the screaming is just living?" "Yes," Captain Torres said. "But there is more. Dr. Nina, what do your sensors show about the rabbit's stress levels?" Dr. Nina checked her instruments, then checked them again. "This cannot be right. The creature shows no signs of distress. In fact, it appears to be thriving." "Even in this environment?" Prime Keth asked. "Especially in this environment," Dr. Lin replied. "The atmospheric pressure here is higher than Earth normal. The radiation levels are increased. The gravity is 1.3 times Earth standard. For most species, these conditions would be fatal." She paused, letting the implications sink in. "But Earth life does not just survive here. It grows stronger." Tara's electricity stopped crackling. "Stronger? How is that possible?" Dr. Lin smiled. "Because Earth is not the gentle garden world you think it is. Our planet has trained us, all of us, from the smallest plant to the largest animal, to survive in conditions that would kill most galactic life." The Alliance members were silent. They had spent their lives believing that their own worlds were the most dangerous in the galaxy. They had been proud of their ability to survive where others could not. "What exactly are the conditions on Earth?" Prime Keth asked quietly. Ambassador Vale's expression grew serious. Gravity that crushes, atmosphere that burns, weather that destroys cities, radiation from our star that can kill, earthquakes that split continents, storms that level forests. But your planet looks like paradise in the galactic databases, Dr. Nina protested. Because, Captain Torres said, we have learned to make paradise out of hell, just as you have done on your worlds. Commander Vex holstered his weapon completely. You are saying that Earth is a death world? We are saying, Ambassador Vale replied, that every world where life struggles to survive is a death world. We have heard the stories of your planets, the acid rain, the crushing gravity, the poison atmosphere. We know these challenges because we face them too. The rabbit in the enclosure hopped closer to the viewing window, its nose twitching curiously at the Alliance members. It showed no fear, no stress, no signs of the suffering that their sensors had detected. The screaming your sensors detect, Dr. Lin explained, is the sound of life refusing to give up. It is the sound of cells fighting to survive, of hearts beating against impossible odds, of minds pushing forward when everything says to stop. Prime Keth stared at the small Earth creature. And this is normal for your world? This is normal. For any world where life chooses to fight instead of surrender, Ambassador Vale said. We believe that is something the Deathworld Alliance understands very well. The Alliance members looked at each other. For the first time in their lives, they were seeing creatures from another world that might actually understand their struggle. But if Earth was truly a death world as dangerous as their own planets, then these humans might be far more dangerous than they appeared. Tomorrow, Prime Keth announced, we will study your world's data more carefully. We must understand what we are dealing with. As the humans were escorted to guest quarters, the Alliance members remained in the cargo bay, watching the Earth creatures live and thrive in conditions that should have killed them. The screaming from their sensors continued, but now they understood it differently. It was not the sound of death. It was the sound of life that refused to die. The next morning, the Alliance science team gathered in their main laboratory. Dr. Nina had not slept all night. She had been running tests on the Earth samples that Dr. Lin had provided. A single leaf, a drop of water, and a small piece of soil. The results make no sense, she told Prime Keth as he entered the lab. According to our analysis, this leaf should have died the moment it left Earth's atmosphere, but it is still alive, still growing. Commander Vex stood beside a containment unit where the Earth soil sample was being studied. And this dirt, it is full of tiny creatures, millions of them. They are living in conditions that would sterilize any normal soil. Prime Keth studied. The data displays. What are you saying? I am saying that Earth life is impossible, Dr. Nina replied. It survives things that should kill it. It grows in environments that should poison it. It thrives where other life forms die. Tara entered the lab, her blue skin still sparking with electricity from her morning training session. The humans have requested to observe our tests. They say they want to help us understand. Let them come, Prime Keth decided. We need answers. When the humans arrived, they found the Alliance scientists staring at their instruments in confusion. Dr. Lin approached Dr. Nina's workstation. What troubles you? She asked gently. Dr. Nina pointed to her screens. This leaf from your oak tree. Our atmosphere should have killed it in minutes. Instead, it is producing oxygen faster than when it was in your ship. How is this possible? Dr. Lin smiled. Because your atmosphere is richer than Earth's. More carbon dioxide, higher pressure, increased radiation. The leaf thinks it has found paradise. Paradise? Commander Vex laughed harshly. Our atmosphere is toxic. It burns the lungs of most species. But not all species, Ambassador Vale said quietly. Commander, what is the atmosphere like on your homeworld? Vex straightened with pride. Thick with volcanic gases. Acid rain falls every day. The air pressure could crush a normal being. Only the strongest survive there. And you breathe it naturally? Of course. My people have adapted over millions of years. Ambassador Vale nodded. Just as Earth life has adapted to our world. But there is something you should know about adaptation. It does not just help you survive in your own environment. It makes you incredibly strong in other environments. 2. Dr. Lin activated a holographic display showing Earth's environmental data. This is what we call a normal day on Earth. The Alliance members stared at the display in growing shock. The data showed temperature swings that would kill most life, forms, radiation levels that should sterilize the planet, and atmospheric pressure that varied wildly across the globe. "This cannot be correct," Old Tom said, his metal-strong bones creaking as he leaned forward. "These conditions would destroy any planet's ecosystem." "Yet Earth has the richest ecosystem in the known galaxy," Dr. Lin replied. "Millions of species, all competing for survival in an environment that never stops trying to kill them." She changed the display to show Earth's weather patterns. "These are our storms. What we call hurricanes can destroy entire cities. Our earthquakes can split continents. Our volcanoes can change the climate of the entire planet." Tara's electricity stopped crackling entirely. "And life survives this?" "Life does more than survive," Captain Torres said. "Life adapts. It grows stronger. It finds ways to use these deadly forces as tools for survival." Dr. Nina was studying, her instruments again. "The soil sample. There are creatures in it that can survive in pure acid, others that can live in boiling water, some that can even survive in the vacuum of space for short periods. Earth life has been fighting for survival for billions of years," Dr. Lin explained. "Every disaster, every catastrophe, every challenge has made it stronger. What you call screaming is the sound of life that has learned to never give up." Prime Keth walked to the containment unit holding the rabbit. The small creature was still calm, still healthy, still showing no signs of stress despite being in an environment that should have killed it. "This small animal," he said slowly. "What dangers does it face on Earth?" Dr. Lin considered the question. "Predators that hunt it from the sky and ground, diseases that could kill it in days, weather that could freeze it solid or burn it alive, food that might be poisonous, water that might be contaminated. Yet it looks so peaceful, because it has learned to live with danger every moment of its life. Constant alertness, constant adaptation, constant survival. To this rabbit, your station is actually safer than most places on Earth." Commander Vex was staring at the atmospheric data. "Your oxygen levels, they are higher than most species can tolerate. This should be toxic to you." "It is," Ambassador Vale said calmly. "Earth's atmosphere is slowly poisoning us. The oxygen burns our cells from the inside. We live shorter lives than most galactic species because our own air is killing us." "Then why do you not change it?" "Because the struggle makes us stronger. Every breath we take is a victory against a world that does not want us to exist." The room fell silent. The Alliance members, who had always believed their own worlds were the ultimate test of survival, were beginning to understand that they had never met anything like Earth life. Dr. Nina spoke first. "The electromagnetic signatures we detected, they are not just biological processes. They are the signals of life forms that are constantly fighting for survival at the cellular level. Every heartbeat is a battle," Dr. Lin confirmed. "Every breath is a victory. Every moment of life is earned through struggle." Old Tom's voice was barely above a whisper. "No wonder your sensors showed such intense signals. Your life forms are not just living. They are conquering death every second." Tara approached the rabbit's enclosure. "On my world we have creatures that can survive our electrical storms. But they are huge, armored, built for battle. This small thing, how does it survive?" "Speed, intelligence, and the ability to hide," Dr. Lin said. "But most importantly, it never stops being ready to fight for its life." The rabbit looked up at Tara with bright, alert eyes. In that moment, she saw something that made her step back. The creature was not afraid of her, despite her size and obvious strength. It was evaluating her, deciding whether she was a threat worth responding to. "It is not afraid," she breathed. "Fear is a luxury that Earth life cannot afford, Captain," Torres said. "Fear makes you hesitate. Hesitation gets you killed. Prime Keth turned to face the humans. You came to us because you knew we would understand this. We came to you because we recognized kindred spirits, Ambassador Vale replied. The Deathworld Alliance exists because you have learned the same lessons we have. Survival is not about being the biggest or the strongest. It is about refusing to give up. Dr. Nina was running new calculations on her computers. If Earth life is this resilient, this adaptable, what does that make humans? The humans exchanged glances. Ambassador Vale's expression grew serious. That is something we hoped you would help us understand. We have always wondered why other species fear us, why they call us dangerous when we have only tried to be peaceful. Because, Prime Keth said slowly, you are apex predators who do not know your own strength. The words hung in the air like a challenge. The Alliance members looked at the humans with new eyes, seeing not soft garden world dwellers, but survivors of a world that made their own death worlds look gentle. Tomorrow, Prime Keth announced, we will study Earth's complete environmental data. We must understand exactly what kind of world could produce life this strong. As the humans left the laboratory, the Alliance members remained behind, staring at the Earth samples that continued to thrive in conditions that should have killed them. The screaming from their sensors had not stopped, but now they understood it was the sound of life that had learned to turn every challenge into strength. They were beginning to realize that they had not just met another species. They had met their teachers. Commander Vex could not sleep. For 3 days he had been studying the data about Earth that the humans had provided. Each new piece of information made him more disturbed. He sat in his private quarters, surrounded by holographic displays showing Earth's environmental readings. Computer, he said to his AI system, compare Earth's radiation levels to the galactic average for habitable worlds. The display changed, showing 2 sets of numbers. Vex stared at them for a long moment, then checked the calculations again. The numbers did not change. Impossible, he muttered. Computer, run the comparison again. Check for errors. No errors detected, Commander. Earth's baseline radiation is 347% higher than the galactic standard for habitable worlds. Vex stood and paced around his room. He activated his communicator. Dr. Nina, are you awake? Her voice came through immediately. I have not slept in 2 days, Commander. These readings, they cannot be real. Meet me in the main laboratory. Bring Prime Keth. 20 minutes later, the 3 Alliance leaders stood before a massive holographic display of Earth. The planet looked beautiful from space. Blue oceans, white clouds, green and brown continents. It appeared to be the perfect garden world. Tell me what you have found, Prime Keth said. Dr. Nina activated her data files. I have been analyzing every aspect of Earth's environment. Prime Keth, this planet should not be able to support life. She highlighted different sections of the planet. The atmospheric composition contains 21% oxygen. For most species, anything above 16% oxygen is toxic. It burns their lungs and damages their cells. But humans breathe it naturally, Commander Vex said, because they have adapted to live in a poisonous atmosphere, Dr. Nina replied. Their blood carries special proteins that protect them from oxygen damage. Without these proteins, they would die from their own air. Prime Keth studied the display. What else? Dr. Nina changed the view to show Earth's tectonic activity. The planet's surface is constantly moving. Earthquakes happen every day. Volcanoes regularly destroy entire regions. The continents themselves shift and change position. This is normal for death worlds, Commander Vex said. My planet has similar
activity. Your planet has one active tectonic zone, Dr. Nina corrected. Earth has dozens. The entire planet is constantly reshaping itself.
And yet, life not only survives but thrives in these conditions. The display showed Earth's weather patterns. Prime Keth watched massive storms that covered areas larger than most space stations. These storms, he said, they happen regularly. Every season, Dr. Nina confirmed. Hurricanes with winds that can destroy cities, tornadoes that can lift buildings into the sky, lightning storms that strike the ground millions of times per day. Commander Vex was studying the gravitational data. The gravity is only 1.0 standard. That is actually weak compared to our worlds. That is what makes it so frightening, Dr. Nina said quietly. Earth life has developed this strength and resilience under normal gravity conditions. Imagine what they could do under higher gravity. She pulled up biological data about humans. I ran tests on the skin cells that Dr. Lin provided. Human skin can repair itself from radiation damage that would kill most species. Their bones are designed to heal from breaks that would cripple others permanently. Their immune systems can fight diseases that we have never seen before. Prime Keth was beginning to understand. They are not just adapted to their world. They are over-adapted. Exactly, Dr. Nina said. Earth has pushed its life form so hard that they have become capable of surviving almost anything. Commander Vex activated another display. I have been studying their military history. Do you know how humans settle disputes among themselves? War, like most species, Prime Keth replied. No, not like most species. Vex's forearms moved as he pulled up historical data. Most species fight until one side surrenders or retreats. Humans fight until one side is completely destroyed or physically unable to continue fighting. The display showed images of human conflicts throughout their history. Prime Keth and Dr. Nina watched in growing amazement as they saw the scale of destruction that humans inflicted on each other. They destroy their own cities, Dr. Nina whispered. They poison their own land. They fight wars that last for decades. And then they rebuild, Commander Vex added. They heal their world and prepare for the next conflict. This is not the behavior of a civilized species. This is the behavior of apex predators. Prime Keth was studying data about human space exploration. They have only had space travel for a few hundred years, yet they have already explored more of their local system than most species explore in millennia. Because they are not afraid, Dr. Nina said. Look at their early space missions. They strapped themselves to controlled explosions and shot themselves into the vacuum of space with technology that failed half the time. Commander Vex pulled up records of human contact with other species. When they first met the Galactic Council, the other species immediately classified them as a potential threat. But humans did not understand why. Because to them their behavior is normal, Prime Keth realized. They think every species fights for survival the way they do. Dr. Nina activated a new set of data. I requested information about human colonies from the galactic databases. Look at where they choose to settle. The display showed a map of human settlements across known space. Prime Keth stared at the locations in disbelief. High radiation zones, extreme temperature planets, worlds with unstable atmospheres. He looked at the humans' choices with new understanding. They are not looking for safe worlds, they are looking for challenges. Because safe worlds are boring to them, Commander Vex said. They need struggle to feel alive. Dr. Nina pulled up the final piece of data that had kept her awake for 2 days. This is the most disturbing information of all. I analyzed the electromagnetic signatures we detected from their ship, the ones we thought were screams. The display showed wave patterns from the human vessel. These signals are not just from their biological cargo. They are coming from the humans themselves. Prime Keth leaned forward. What do you mean? Every human on that ship is producing the same electromagnetic signatures we detected from their plants and animals. Their bodies are constantly fighting for survival at the cellular level, even when they are perfectly safe. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Commander Vex spoke first. You are saying that humans never stop fighting for their lives, even when there is no danger. Their bodies do not know how to stop, Dr. Nina confirmed. They have been conditioned by their world to treat every moment as a battle for survival. Their cells, their organs, their entire biological system is always prepared for the worst possible conditions. Prime Keth understood now why the galactic community feared humans. It was not because they were aggressive or violent. It was because they were survivors on a level that no other species could comprehend. They are not just from a death world, he said slowly. They are from the ultimate death world, a planet so dangerous that it has created life forms incapable of recognizing safety. Dr. Nina nodded. Earth has not just taught its children to survive. It has taught them to thrive in conditions that would destroy civilizations. Commander, Vex was studying the human ship's location on his sensors. And now they want to join the Deathworld Alliance. Because they recognize us as the only species who might understand them, Prime Keth said. We who have survived on Death Worlds know the value of strength through struggle. The three Alliance leaders stood in silence, contemplating what they had learned. Somewhere on their station, three humans slept peacefully, unaware that they had just been revealed as the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever encountered. Tomorrow, Prime Keth announced, we vote on their membership in the Alliance, but first we must decide, are we ready to ally ourselves with predators who do not even know they are predators? The question hung in the air as the Alliance leaders faced a decision that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The emergency session of the Deathworld Alliance Council was unlike any meeting in their history. Every member species had sent representatives to Fortress Prime. The Great Council Chamber was filled with beings from the galaxy's most dangerous worlds, all gathered to decide the fate of three humans who waited quietly in their guest quarters. Prime Keth stood at the center of the chamber, holding a data crystal containing everything they had learned about Earth and humanity. Around him, the council members argued with voices that echoed off the metal walls. They are too dangerous, shouted Representative Mark from the acid world of Melkor. His green skin bubbled and steamed in the station's atmosphere. If we accept them, the core worlds will unite against us. Good, growled old Tom, his metal bones creaking as he stood. Let them come. We have faced their fleets before. Tara's blue skin crackled with electricity. The question is not whether they are dangerous. The question is whether they are dangerous to us. Commander Vex activated the holographic display, showing Earth's environmental data. Look at these readings again. This is not just a death world. This is a world that makes our planets look safe. The council members studied the data in silence. Many of them had seen it before, but the numbers still shocked them. Dr. Nina stood and addressed the chamber. I have run every test possible on human biology, she announced. They are not just adapted to extreme conditions, they are built for them. Their muscles are 3 times denser than necessary for their gravity. Their bones can heal from breaks that would cripple us. Their blood can carry oxygen levels that would poison most species. But what does this mean for the Alliance? Asked Representative Vale from the ice world of Friggies. Her crystalline skin reflected the chamber's lights like frozen lightning. Prime Keth stepped forward. It means we have found our true allies. For centuries, the Deathworld Alliance has been seen as a collection of monsters and outcasts. The core worlds push us to the edges of space and call us barbarians. He activated another display showing the current galactic political map. The Deathworld Alliance controlled only a small section of the outer rim, while the core worlds dominated the center of the galaxy. But humans change everything, Prime Keth continued. They are a species that the core worlds already fear, yet they seek alliance with us willingly. Commander Vex stood beside him. I have been studying human military capabilities. They have weapons that can destroy planets, but they prefer to capture and rebuild. They have ships that can travel faster than any in our fleets, but they use them for exploration, not conquest. They are warriors who do not know they are warriors, old Tom added. This makes them more dangerous than any army. The chamber door opened, and Ambassador Vale entered with Captain Torres and Dr. Lin. The 3 humans walked calmly to the center of the room, showing no fear despite being surrounded by beings that most of the galaxy considered monsters. Humans of Earth, Prime Keth said formally, we have studied your world and your people. We have learned things that disturb us. Ambassador Vale nodded respectfully. We understand your concerns, Prime Keth. We know that our biology and our history raise questions. You do not understand, Commander Vex interrupted. We are not concerned about you joining us. We are concerned about whether we are worthy to join you. The humans looked confused. Captain Torres spoke first. We came here asking for membership in your alliance. We are not asking you to join us. But that is exactly what should happen. Dr. Nina said, stepping forward. Your species represents everything the Deathworld Alliance stands for, but taken to levels we never imagined possible. She activated her personal data display, showing the comparative analysis of Earth versus other Alliance worlds. Your planet's radiation levels exceed ours. Your atmospheric toxicity surpasses ours. Your environmental dangers dwarf ours. You are not just another Deathworld species. You are the ultimate Deathworld species. The chamber fell silent. Representative. Mark leaned forward in his chair. Are you suggesting that humans should lead the Alliance? I am suggesting that humans should lead the galaxy, Prime Keth said quietly. The words echoed through the chamber like a thunderclap. Even the humans looked shocked. Dr. Lin spoke hesitantly. We do not seek to lead anyone. We only want to find others who understand what it means to fight for survival. And that is exactly why you should lead, Tara said, her electricity flickering with excitement. You have the strength to rule, but no desire to conquer. You have the power to destroy, but choose to build. Commander Vex activated the galactic communication system. Computer open channels to all core world leaders, priority alpha transmission. The main display activated, showing surprised faces from across the galaxy. Prime ministers, presidents, and planetary governors appeared on screen, clearly not expecting a call from the Deathworld Alliance. Leaders of the core worlds, Commander, Vex announced. The Deathworld Alliance has voted. We have accepted humanity as not just members but as our senior partners. The reaction was immediate. Voices erupted from speakers as core world leaders began shouting questions and threats. This is an act of war, screamed the Prime Minister of Centauri Prime. You cannot ally with those monsters, added the President of New Geneva. Prime. Keth stepped forward, his voice cutting through the noise. For centuries, you have called us monsters because we survive where you cannot. You have pushed us to the edges of space because our strength frightens you. He gestured to the humans. Now we have found allies who make us look weak by comparison. Humanity has offered us friendship, trade, and technology. In return, the Deathworld Alliance offers them our loyalty. Ambassador Vale stepped beside Prime Keth. The alliance between our peoples is not about conquest or war. It is about mutual respect between species who understand the value of strength through struggle. The core world leaders were shouting over each other, making threats and demands. Captain Torres approached the communication panel. Leaders of the core worlds, he said calmly, his voice somehow carrying over the chaos. We seek only peace and cooperation. The Deathworld Alliance has offered us friendship. We hope you will do the same. Never, screamed the President of New Geneva. We will not negotiate with barbarians and monsters. The transmission ended as the core worlds cut their connections. The chamber was quiet for a moment. Well, Dr. Lin said with a small smile, I suppose that could have gone better. Old. Tom's laughter boomed through the chamber. Better? That was perfect. Now they know that the outer rim is no longer defenseless. Prime Keth turned to face the full council. All in favor of accepting humanity as senior partners in the Deathworld Alliance? Every hand, claw, and appendage in the chamber rose in agreement. All opposed? The chamber remained still. Then it is decided, Prime Keth announced. The Deathworld Alliance is reborn. With humanity's knowledge and our combined strength, we will no longer be outcasts begging for scraps. Ambassador, Vale stepped forward. What happens now? Commander Vex smiled, showing his sharp teeth. Now we build. Human technology combined with Deathworld resilience. Human exploration combined with our survival skills. Human diplomacy backed by our military strength. Tara's skin crackled with electric excitement. The core worlds control the center of the galaxy because they have the largest populations and the most resources. But resources mean nothing if you cannot survive to use them. Dr. Nina was already pulling up star charts. There are thousands of worlds that the core species consider uninhabitable. Worlds with high radiation, extreme temperatures, toxic atmospheres. To us, these are prime real estate. And to humans, Dr. Lin added. They are new challenges to overcome. Prime Keth looked out through the great viewing window at the stars beyond. For the first time in our history, the Deathworld Alliance is not just surviving. We are growing. 6 months later, the transformation was complete. Human terraforming technology had made Alliance worlds more livable without making them soft. Human ships protected Alliance trade routes with weapons that made core world fleets nervous. Human diplomats negotiated from positions of strength that the Alliance had never known before. Most importantly, the galaxy had learned a new truth. The beings they had pushed to the edges of space were not outcasts anymore. They were the vanguard of a new age, led by a species that turned every challenge into an opportunity and every struggle into strength. The Deathworld Alliance had become the most powerful force in the galaxy, not through conquest, but through the simple act of refusing to accept that survival was the best they could hope for. And in the depths of space, human ships continued to broadcast their electromagnetic signatures. The eternal screams of life that refused to surrender, now joined by the voices of every species that had learned the same lesson. The galaxy would never be the same. The space station was huge, bigger than anything Jake had ever seen before. Ships of all sizes came and went like busy bees around a hive. Strange creatures walked around everywhere. Some had 4 arms, some had wings, and some looked like walking trees. But they all had one thing in common. They were all trying to get away from Gate 47. Jake walked through the crowd with his old backpack. He did not look special, just a regular human in work clothes. His ticket said Flight 7734 to the B, Outer Colonies. He had a job waiting there, fixing mining equipment on a planet called Rock Bottom. It was not a fancy job, but it paid well. The closer he got to Gate 47, the emptier the hallways became. Other travelers saw the gate number and quickly walked the other way. Some even ran. Jake wondered why everyone seemed so scared. At the information desk, a blue alien with 6 eyes was helping customers. When Jake showed his ticket, all 6 eyes went wide. "Sir," the alien said in a worried voice, "are you sure this is your flight? Flight 7734 to the Outer Rim?" "Yes," Jake said. "Is there a problem?" The alien looked around nervously. That ship, it has a bad reputation. Very bad. In the last year, only 6 out of 10 flights made it to their destination safely. Jake raised an eyebrow. What happened to the other 4? Pirates got 2 of them. Space storms destroyed one. The 4th one just disappeared. No one knows what happened. But 6 flights made it through fine, Jake said with a small smile. Those are not terrible odds. The alien stared at him like he was crazy. Sir, most people would rather wait 3 months for a safer ship than take those chances. I don't have 3 months, Jake said. My new job starts next week. The alien shook his head and pointed toward Gate 47. Your funeral, human. Jake walked to the gate area. It was completely empty except for the crew. A large lizard-like creature in a captain's uniform was talking to his team. His name tag said, Captain Torque. Near him stood a bird-like alien with beautiful feathers. That was probably the pilot. A slug-shaped creature with multiple arms was checking equipment. The 4th crew member looked like a giant insect. When they saw Jake approaching, they all stopped talking. Captain Torque walked over to him. You are the passenger for Flight 7734? That's me, Jake said, showing his ticket. The captain looked at the ticket, then at Jake, then back at the ticket. Human, do you know what route this ship takes? Through the danger zones to the outer colonies, Jake said. That's why the ticket was so cheap. Cheap. The bird-like pilot laughed, but it was not a happy laugh. Sir, this route goes through 3 active war zones. We have to pass by 2 unstable wormholes that could collapse at any time. Then we fly through the Crimson Nebula, where ships disappear every month. The insect crew member, whose name tag, said Bug, clicked his mandibles nervously. Most passengers take one look at our ship and buy tickets for other flights, even the desperate ones. Jake looked out the window at their ship. It was not pretty. The hull was covered in burn marks and patches. Some parts looked like they had been welded on after being blown off. The engines were old and made weird noises. It looked like it had been through several battles and barely survived each one. She doesn't look like much, Jake admitted, but she's still flying. That counts for something. The slug-like mechanic, whose name was Rex, slithered closer. Sir, with respect, maybe you should reconsider. There are other ships leaving tomorrow, safer ships. This ship leaves today, Jake said simply. I need to get to rock bottom as soon as possible. Captain Torque sighed. Very well, but I must warn you, this journey is dangerous. More dangerous than most people can imagine. We cannot guarantee your safety. I understand, Jake said. I signed the papers. I know the risks. The crew looked at each other with worried expressions. They had seen many passengers over the years, but most ran away once they learned the truth about Flight 7734. This human was different. He seemed calm, almost relaxed. Sir, the pilot Lynn said, may I ask what you do for work? I'm an engineer, Jake replied. I fix things that are broken, usually in dangerous places. What kind of dangerous places? Bug asked. Jake thought for a moment. I've worked on oil rigs in the middle of storms. I've fixed equipment in underwater mines. I once repaired a space elevator while it was moving. Dangerous is part of the job. Captain Torque nodded slowly. Maybe this human was not as helpless as he looked. All right then, the captain said. We begin boarding in 10 minutes. I hope you have a strong stomach. This ship was not built for comfort. As Jake waited, he watched other passengers arrive at nearby gates, families with children heading to safe colony worlds, business travelers taking secure routes to core systems, rich tourists flying in luxury ships to exotic destinations. They all had better ships, better crews, and much safer journeys ahead of them. But none of them were going where Jake needed to go. The outer rim colonies were far from the safe routes. Only ships like Flight 7734 went there regularly. It was a rough service for rough places. A group of refugees approached Gate 47. They carried everything they owned in small bags. They looked tired and desperate. But when they saw the ship, they slowly backed away. Even people with nowhere else to go were too scared to board Flight 7734. Time to go, Captain Torque announced. Jake picked up his backpack and walked toward the ship. Behind him, he heard the crew talking quietly. "Think he'll survive the trip?" Rex whispered. "Humans are tougher than they look," Lynn replied. "But this route breaks everyone eventually." "We'll see," Bug said. "We'll see." Jake smiled to himself as he boarded the ship. He had a feeling this was going to be an interesting journey. The crew thought he was crazy for taking this flight. Maybe he was. But sometimes crazy was exactly what a situation needed. The ship's interior was just as rough as the outside. Old metal walls, patched pipes, and the smell of oil and recycled air. It was not pretty, but it was functional. Jake had worked in worse places. As the ship prepared for departure, Jake found a seat and buckled in. Through the window, he could see the busy space station. Soon, they would leave all that safety behind and head into the unknown dangers of deep space. Most people would be terrified. Jake was excited. The ship shook as it left the space station. Jake felt the engines rumble beneath his feet. It was not a smooth takeoff like the fancy passenger ships. This felt more like riding inside a washing machine during an earthquake. But Jake had been on rough rides before. He just held onto his seat and waited for things to calm down. Captain Torque's voice came over the speakers. "Attention, passenger. Yes, just one passenger. We are now leaving safe space. Our first stop will be the dark. Matterfield's in about 6 hours. Please stay in your seat until we clear the station traffic." Jake looked around the passenger area. It was built for 50 people, but he was completely alone. Rows and rows of empty seats stretched out around him. It felt strange, like being the only person in a movie theater. After an hour, the ship settled into a steady course. The shaking stopped, and Jake could hear the normal hum of engines and life support systems. He unbuckled his seatbelt and decided to explore. The ship was bigger than it looked from outside. There were cargo holds, crew quarters, a small kitchen, and even an observation deck with large windows. Everything was old but well maintained. Someone cared about this ship, even if it was not pretty. Jake found the crew on the bridge. Captain. Torque was checking navigation charts while Lynn worked at the pilot controls. Bug was monitoring the engines and Rex was fixing something that was making clicking noises. "How is our passenger doing?" Captain Torque asked when he saw Jake. "Fine," Jake said. "Mind if I look around? I've never been on a ship like this before." "Feel free," the captain said. "Just don't touch anything important, and stay away from the engine room when we hit the dangerous zones. The radiation can be bad." Jake nodded and continued exploring. In the engine room, he found machines he recognized from his work on mining stations. The power systems were similar to ones he had repaired before. The life support equipment used technology he understood. This ship might look alien, but the basic engineering was familiar. "You seem interested in our engines," Rex said, appearing behind Jake with his multiple arms full of tools. "I work with similar systems," Jake explained. "These look well maintained." Rex smiled or did something that looked like smiling with his slug-like face. "I do my best, but this old ship has many problems. Something breaks every day." "What kind of problems?" Rex showed Jake a thick notebook filled with repair records. "Power fluctuations in Sector 7, cooling system leaks in the cargo bay, navigation, computer crashes when we enter strong electromagnetic fields. Life support filters need changing every month instead of every 3 months." Jake looked through the notes. Rex was clearly a good mechanic, but he was fighting a losing battle against an aging ship. "Have you tried rerouting the power through the backup systems when you hit the electromagnetic fields?" "Backup systems?" Rex looked confused. "We use those for emergencies only. On Earth ships, we learn to switch between main and backup systems regularly. It prevents overloads and gives each system time to cool down. Want me to show you?" Rex's eyes lit up. "Yes, please." For the next 2 hours, Jake and Rex worked together on the ship's systems. Jake showed Rex tricks he had learned from years of keeping old equipment running, simple solutions that did not require new parts or major repairs. "Humans have good ideas," Rex said as they finished rerouting some power cables. "Very practical." Meanwhile, on the bridge, Lynn was teaching Jake about space navigation. She showed him star charts and explained how they would travel through the dangerous zones. First, we pass through the dark matter fields, she said, pointing to a red area on the map. Dark matter makes our instruments go crazy. We have to fly mostly by sight. Then what? Jake asked. The radiation storms near the Gamma Nebula. We need special shields, and even then some radiation gets through. After that, we enter the war zone where 3 different alien armies are fighting. They shoot at anything that moves. And after the war zone? Lynn's feathers ruffled nervously. The Crimson Nebula, that's the worst part. Ships go in and never come out, no one knows why. Jake studied the charts. The route looked impossible. No wonder most people refused to take this flight. But he noticed something interesting. These danger zones, they're not random, are they? There's a pattern. What do you mean? Captain Torque asked, joining the conversation. Jake traced the route with his finger. The dark matter fields move in cycles. The radiation storms follow solar activity. Even the war zones shift based on military strategies. If you time everything, right, there might be windows when it's safer to pass through. Bug clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. We never thought about timing. We just fly when we have cargo or passengers. Maybe that's why some flights don't make it, Jake suggested. Bad timing. The crew looked at each other. This human was thinking about their route in ways they had never considered. Suddenly, alarms started blaring. Red lights flashed on the bridge. What's happening? Jake asked. We're entering the dark matter fields, Captain Torque said grimly. Everyone hold on. This is where things get rough. The ship began to shake violently. Outside, the windows, space itself seemed to twist and bend. Stars appeared and disappeared in strange patterns. The navigation instruments spun wildly. I can't get a clear reading, Lynn said, struggling with her controls. The dark matter is interfering with everything. Sparks flew from a control panel near Jake. He smelled burning electronics. Rex rushed over with a fire extinguisher, but Jake was already looking at the damaged circuits. Don't spray that yet, Jake said. The fire is just from an overload. See this circuit here? It's trying to handle too much power. He studied the damaged panel for a moment, then started disconnecting some wires. If we reroute the power through these secondary circuits, we can bypass the overload. Are you sure? Rex asked nervously. I've done this repair 100 times on mining equipment, Jake said confidently. Same principle, different application. Jake quickly rewired the circuits while the ship continued shaking. Within minutes, the spark stopped and the panel came back online. Navigation is working again, Lynn reported with amazement. Captain Torque stared at Jake. How did you know how to fix that? Like I said, I fix things for a living. Doesn't matter if it's human, technology, or alien technology. Electricity works the same way everywhere. The ship continued through the dark matter fields, but now their instruments were working properly. What should have been a blind flight through dangerous space became a manageable journey. Amazing, Bug whispered to Rex. Maybe having a human aboard is not such a bad thing. Rex nodded, still amazed by Jake's quick repair. This human knows what he is doing. As they cleared the dark matter fields and entered normal space again, the crew looked at Jake with new respect. He had just solved a problem that usually made this part of the journey terrifying. Next stop, the radiation storms, Captain Torque announced. But for the first time in years, he did not sound worried. Jake smiled and returned to his exploration of the ship. This journey was turning out to be exactly what he had hoped for. Interesting, challenging, and full of problems to solve. The ship had been flying smoothly for 3 hours when the alarms started screaming again. This time, they were different alarms. Not the steady beeping of equipment problems, but the sharp, urgent sound that meant immediate danger. Jake was in the observation deck watching the stars when Captain Torque's voice boomed over the speakers. Battle stations. We have 6 pirate ships approaching fast. All crew to emergency positions. Passenger, get to the safe room immediately. But Jake did not run to the safe room. Instead, he headed for the bridge. He wanted to see what was happening. The bridge was chaos. Red lights flashed everywhere. Erie was pushing the ship's engines to maximum power, while Bug monitored the weapon systems. Rex was trying to boost the shields, and Captain Torque was shouting orders. "They're coming in fast from 3 directions," Lynn reported. "Small fighters, but they're armed with plasma cannons." Jake looked at the tactical display. 6 red dots were closing in on their position. The pirates had them surrounded. "Can we outrun them?" Jake asked. Captain Torque shook his head. "Not in this old cargo ship. Those fighters are 3 times faster than us." "Then we fight? With what?" Bug clicked his mandibles nervously. "We have 2 small laser cannons. They have 6 ships with military-grade weapons." Jake studied the tactical screen more carefully. The pirates were moving in a standard attack formation, but something caught his attention. Behind them, scattered, across the display were hundreds of small objects. "What are those?" Jake pointed to the objects. "Asteroids," Lynn said without looking up from her piloting. "We're passing through the bleeding-edge asteroid field. That's why the pirates chose this spot. We can't use the asteroids for cover because they're too big and move too fast." Jake watched the asteroids moving on the screen. They were not moving randomly. There was a pattern, a slow, steady rotation based on the gravitational pull of the nearby star. "How big are those asteroids?" Jake asked. "Some are as large as buildings," Captain Torque replied. "Others are just house-sized, all of them deadly if you hit one." "And they're rotating?" "Yes, the whole field rotates around the star. That's what makes it so dangerous." Jake pulled up a chair and started typing on the navigation computer. Numbers and calculations filled the screen. "What are you doing?" Lynn asked, trying to fly evasive maneuvers as the pirates got closer. "Calculating the rotation pattern," Jake said calmly. "These asteroids are not random. They follow mathematical rules based on gravity and momentum. This is not the time for math lessons," Captain Torque shouted as laser fire began hitting their shields. But Jake ignored the chaos around him. He had learned to focus under pressure during his years working on dangerous mining operations. While everyone else panicked, he worked on the problem. The ship shook as more laser blasts hit them. Their shields were weakening. "Shields at 60%, Rex reported. 50%, he said a minute later. Jake finished his calculations and looked up. "I need you to fly directly into the asteroid field, right into the thickest part." Everyone on the bridge stared at him. "Are you insane?" Captain Torque demanded. "That's suicide." "No," Jake said, showing them his calculations. "Look at this pattern. The asteroids rotate in a spiral. If we time it exactly right, there are gaps. Windows where we can fly through safely." "Windows." Lynn's voice was high with stress. "Those asteroids are moving at hundreds of kilometers per hour, but they're moving in a predictable pattern," Jake explained, "like gears in a machine. If we enter at exactly the right moment and follow this flight path, we can pass through safely." Captain Torque looked at the screen showing Jake's calculations. The math was complex, but the logic was clear. "And the pirates?" "Their ships are smaller and more maneuverable than ours, but that works against them in the asteroid field. They'll have to slow down and be more careful. Some of them won't make it through." Another blast rocked the ship. "Shields at 30%, Rex announced. "We have to decide now," Jake said. "Either we try this, or we surrender to the pirates." "Captain," Torque looked at his crew. They were all scared, but they trusted him to make the right choice. "Lynn, can you follow his flight path exactly?" Lynn studied Jake's calculations. As the ship's pilot, she understood navigation better than anyone. "It's crazy, but the math looks right. If we're off by even 1 second, we're dead." "Better than definitely being dead," Captain Torque decided. "Do it." Lynn changed course toward the asteroid field. The pirates followed, firing constantly. Their shields were down to 20%. "Here we go," Jake said, watching his calculations. "Turn left in 3, 2, 1, now." Lynn turned the ship hard to the left. A massive asteroid the size of a city block spun past them, missing by just a few meters. "Dive down! Now!" Jake called out. The ship dove under a cluster of spinning rocks. Behind them, they heard an explosion. One of the pirate ships had clipped an asteroid and was destroyed. "Right turn in 5 seconds, Jake said, his eyes never leaving the screen. 4, 3, 2, 1, turn." Lin followed every instruction perfectly. The ship twisted and turned through the asteroid field like a dancer moving through a deadly ballet. Rocks spun past them at incredible speeds, but Jake's calculations were perfect. They always had just enough room to pass through safely. Behind them, the pirates were having trouble. Their smaller ships were fast, but they could not predict the asteroid movements like Jake could. 2 more pirate ships crashed into spinning rocks. "Climb up, now," Jake shouted. The ship shot upward, passing between 2 asteroids that smashed together right where they had been a second before. 3 pirates left, Bug reported, monitoring the sensors. Jake continued calling out course. Corrections. Left, right, up, down. The ship danced through the deadly field while the pirates struggled to keep up. "Final turn coming up," Jake announced. "This is the tricky part. We need to spiral around that big asteroid and use its gravity to slingshot us out of the field." "Slingshot?" Captain Torque asked. "Trust me," Jake said. "Lin, follow my directions." "Exactly. Turn right and accelerate toward that asteroid." It looked like they were going to crash into the massive rock, but at the last second, Jake called for a sharp turn. The ship whipped around the asteroid, using its gravity to boost their speed and launch them out of the field. The remaining pirates tried to follow, but they were going too fast. 2 of them crashed into the big asteroid. The last one managed to escape, but he was alone and decided to retreat. "We're clear," Lin announced, breathing heavily. The bridge was silent except for the sound of everyone catching their breath. "How did you do that?" Captain Torque asked Jake. Jake smiled. "Pattern recognition. Humans are good at seeing patterns. In chaos. We had to be. Our ancestors survived by understanding how nature works." Rex looked at the tactical display showing their path through the asteroid field. "Incredible. You turned a death trap into an escape route. Sometimes the most dangerous path is actually the safest," Jake said. "The pirates expected us to run away from the asteroids, not toward them." Captain Torque clapped Jake on the shoulder. "Remind me never to play chess with you, human." As they flew toward their next challenge, the crew looked at Jake with amazement. He had just saved all their lives using nothing but math and calm thinking. "What's our next obstacle?" Jake asked. "The war zone," Captain Torque replied. 3 armies fighting over mining rights." Jake nodded. "Should be interesting." 2 days after the pirate attack, the ship approached the most dangerous part of their journey, the Crimson Nebula. Jake stood on the observation deck, watching the massive cloud of red gas growing larger ahead of them. It looked beautiful, like a cosmic rose blooming in space, but he knew it was deadly. Captain Torque joined him at the window. "That's where we lose most ships," he said quietly. "The nebula is full of electromagnetic storms that destroy our navigation systems. The gas is so thick that sensors become useless. Ships go in and never come out." "How do other ships navigate through it?" Jake asked. "They don't," the captain replied. "Most ships go around the nebula. That takes 3 extra weeks. We go through, because our passengers usually can't wait that long. But some of your flights have made it through successfully." Captain Torque nodded. "About half, but those were lucky flights when the storms were calm. Today the storms are very active." Jake studied the swirling red clouds. Lightning flashed deep inside the nebula, not regular lightning but energy discharges that could fry every electronic system on the ship. "How long does it take to cross through?" Jake asked. 8 hours if everything goes perfectly. 12 hours if we get lost. Forever if we hit one of the spatial anomalies inside. Spatial anomalies. Tears in space itself. They appear without warning and can rip a ship apart instantly. Jake was quiet for a moment, thinking. "What navigation methods do you use inside the nebula?" "Whatever works," Captain Torque said with a bitter laugh. "Our computers crash within the first hour. Our sensors show false readings. We basically fly blind and hope for the best." An hour later, they entered the outer edge of the Crimson Nebula. Almost immediately, the ship's lights began flickering. The navigation screens filled with static. Warning alarms started sounding throughout the ship. On the bridge, the crew was struggling with failing systems. "Navigation computer is down," Lin reported. Sensors are giving random readings, Bug added. Communication systems are dead, Rex announced. Captain Torque looked grim. We're flying blind now. Everyone pray to whatever gods you believe in. Jake watched the chaos for a few minutes, then spoke up. Captain, what if we turn off all the electronic systems? Everyone stared at him. Turn them off? Captain Torque asked. Then we'll have no way to navigate at all. No electronic way, Jake corrected. But there are other methods. What other methods? Lynn asked desperately. Jake smiled. Old-fashioned navigation, the kind humans used before we had computers. He went to his backpack and pulled out a simple mechanical compass and a notebook. Before humans had GPS or electronic navigation, we found our way using stars, wind patterns, and basic mathematics. But we're in space, Bug protested. There's no wind here. No. But there are gravitational currents, magnetic fields, and stellar positions. The same principles apply. Captain Torque was skeptical. You want to navigate through the most dangerous region in the galaxy using a compass and notebook? Why not? Jake said. Your electronic systems don't work here anyway. At least this way, we'll have some control over our direction. The ship shuddered as another electromagnetic storm hit them. More systems failed. We're losing life support power, Rex warned. All right, Captain Torque decided. Turn off everything except basic life support. Let's see what the human can do. The bridge went dark except for emergency lighting. The constant humming of computers and electronics stopped. For the first time in hours, there was relative quiet. Jake went to the observation windows with his compass and notebook. He spent several minutes looking at the stars visible through gaps in the nebula clouds, making notes and calculations. What are you doing? Lynn asked. Getting our position, Jake explained. See those 3 bright stars in a triangle pattern? That's the navigator's triangle. By measuring the angles between them, I can calculate roughly where we are. He used his compass and a simple protractor to measure angles, then did math in his notebook. We're about here, he said, marking a spot on a star chart. And we need to go that direction to reach the exit. How can you be sure? Captain Torque asked. Jake pointed to another group of stars. Those stars form the Crown constellation. They're only visible from this angle when you're in the northern part of the nebula. And that bright red star over there? That's Crimson Giant. It's always exactly 47 degrees from the nebula's exit point. For the next 6 hours, Jake guided them through the nebula using nothing but stars, compass readings, and mathematics. Every hour, he took new measurements and adjusted their course. The nebula tried its best to confuse them. Electromagnetic storms made the compass spin wildly for minutes at a time. Thick gas clouds blocked their view of the stars. Strange energy fields made the ship drift off course. But Jake stayed calm. When the compass was useless, he used the position of distant galaxies visible through the nebula. When clouds blocked his view, he calculated their drift based on the ship's last known speed and direction. When energy fields pushed them off course, he compensated by adjusting their heading. This is impossible, Lynn whispered as Jake made another course correction. No one navigates by hand anymore. The calculations are too complex. Not complex, Jake said, making notes in his book. Just different. Humans did this for thousands of years before we had machines to do it for us. Bug was amazed. You're doing, in your head, what our best computers can't do in this environment. Computers need perfect information to work, Jake explained. Humans can work with imperfect information. We're good at making educated guesses and adjusting as we go. As they moved deeper into the nebula, the crew began to relax. They were still in terrible danger. But for the first time, they felt like someone was in control of their situation. How much further? Captain Torque asked. Jake checked his calculations. About 2 more hours if my math is right. And if your math is wrong? Jake smiled. Then we'll be lost in here forever. But I don't think I'm wrong. The final 2 hours were the worst. The nebula seemed to know they were close to escaping and threw everything at them. Massive lightning storms that lit up the entire cloud. Gravity wells that tried to pull them off course. spatial tiers that appeared right in front of them. But Jake guided them through each obstacle. When a spatial tear opened directly ahead, he quickly calculated a new route around it. When gravity wells tried to drag them toward a dead star, he used the pull to their advantage, slingshotting around it to increase their speed. Finally, after 8.5 hours in the nebula, they saw clear space ahead. "There's the exit," Lynn said with relief. As they emerged from the Crimson Nebula, the crew cheered. They had done something that most ships couldn't do. They had crossed the most dangerous region in the galaxy safely. Captain Torque powered up the electronic systems. Everything worked perfectly now that they were clear of the electromagnetic interference. "How did you learn to navigate like that?" Rex asked Jake. "My grandfather was a sailor on Earth's oceans," Jake replied. "He taught me that electronics can fail, but the stars are always there. You just have to know how to read them." The crew looked at Jake with wonder. He had saved their lives again, this time using skills that were thousands of years old. "One more obstacle," Captain Torque announced. "The final war zone." Jake nodded and put away his compass and notebook. "I'm ready." The final war zone was different from what Jake expected. Instead of massive battleships fighting in space, he saw something much stranger. Hundreds of small robot ships moving in perfect formation, attacking anything that came near. "Automated defense grid," Captain Torque explained as they watched from a safe distance. 3 different alien armies set up these robot fleets to guard their territory. The problem is the robots have been fighting each other for so long that they've forgotten their original programming. Now they just attack everything. Jake studied the robot ships through the observation window. They moved in rigid patterns, like a deadly dance that never ended. "How do most ships get through?" "Speed and luck," Lynn said. "Fly fast, hope the robots are busy fighting each other, and pray you don't get caught in the crossfire." "What's our success rate with that method?" Jake asked. Bug clicked nervously. "About 50%. The robots are very fast, and their weapons are very accurate." Jake watched the patterns for another hour. The robot ships moved in groups of 12, forming triangular attack formations. Every few minutes they would shift positions, but always in the same way. "These robots are following a program," Jake said finally. "They're not thinking, they're just following instructions." "So?" Captain Torque asked. "So programs have rules, and rules can be predicted." Jake pulled out his notebook again. "I need to watch their patterns for a while longer." For 3 hours, Jake sat at the window, making notes about how the robot ships moved. He drew diagrams showing their formations, timed their pattern changes, and calculated their response speeds. The crew thought he was wasting time. The longer they waited, the more fuel they used. But Jake ignored their worried looks and continued his observations. "I think I understand how they work," Jake said finally. "These robots were originally programmed to defend specific areas, but their programming got corrupted during the war. Now they think everything is an enemy." "How does that help us?" Rex asked. Jake showed them his notes. "Look at this pattern. Every 18 minutes the robots reset their formations. For exactly 90 seconds during each reset, they ignore moving objects and focus only on repositioning themselves." 90 seconds? Captain Torque studied Jake's calculations. "That's not much time to cross the entire war zone." "It's enough if we know exactly where to go," Jake said. "I've mapped their patrol routes. There's a narrow corridor that stays clear during the reset period. If we time it perfectly and fly at maximum speed, we can make it through." Lynn looked at the route Jake had drawn. "That path goes right between 2 major robot fleets. If your timing is wrong by even 10 seconds, we'll be surrounded." "The timing will be right," Jake said confidently. "Machines are predictable. They do the same thing at the same time, every time." Captain Torque made the decision. "We try it. Everyone to battle stations." They waited for the next reset cycle. Jake counted down the seconds while Lynn prepared the engines for maximum acceleration. Reset starting in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. The ship shot forward at full speed. Around them, the robot ships were reorganizing into new formations, completely ignoring the cargo vessel flying past them. 15 seconds elapsed, Jake called out, watching the timer. Stay on course. Robot ships moved above and below them, but none paid attention to the speeding transport. They were too busy following their reset programming. 30 seconds. We're halfway through. The ship flew between two massive robot formations. Jake could see weapon systems on the robot ships, but they remained silent and inactive. 60 seconds, almost there. Ahead of them, Jake could see clear space beyond the war zone. They were going to make it. 80 seconds, we're clear. The ship burst out of the war zone just as the robot reset cycle ended. Behind them, the robots resumed their eternal fighting, but the transport was already far away. The crew cheered and hugged each other. They had done the impossible. They had survived the complete journey from the core worlds to the outer colonies. We made it, Captain Torque said in amazement. For the first time in 2 years, we made it through without losing shields, without damage, without injuries. More than that, Lynn added. This was the smoothest trip we've ever had. Usually we limp into port with half our systems broken. Bug looked at Jake with wonder. How did you do all this? The pirates, the nebula, the war zone, you solved every problem like it was easy. Jake smiled. It wasn't easy. But humans have had to solve problems to survive for millions of years. We're good at looking at dangerous situations and finding solutions. Rex slithered over to Jake. Will you fly with us again? We could use someone like you on every trip. I have a job waiting on rock bottom, Jake said, but maybe sometime in the future. Captain Torque shook Jake's hand. You've changed how we think about this route. Maybe it's not as impossible as we thought. Word of their successful journey spread quickly through the space lanes. Other cargo captains wanted to know how Captain Torque's ship had made it through. Every danger zone without a scratch. Soon everyone was talking about the human who had ridden the death ship and lived to tell about it. Within a week, Jake received dozens of job offers. Space navigation companies wanted him to teach their pilots. Ship designers wanted to study how humans think about problems. Even the Galactic Safety Commission asked him to help improve dangerous routes throughout the galaxy. But the biggest change was in how other species saw humans. Before Jake's journey, most aliens thought humans were just another weak species that needed protection from the dangers of space. Now they realized that humans had something special, the ability to stay calm under pressure and find solutions when everyone else was panicking. The crew of Flight 7734 became celebrities. Captain Torque was interviewed by space news networks. Lynn wrote a book about navigation techniques. Rex started teaching human-style engineering solutions at technical schools. Bug became an expert on crisis management, but they all agreed that Jake was the real hero. He had shown them that being afraid of danger was less important than being prepared for it. 3 months later, Jake got a message from Captain Torque. Flight 7734 was now one of the most popular transport routes in the galaxy. Other humans had started taking the journey, and word was spreading that the death ship was actually safer than most luxury liners. You started something amazing, the message said. Humans are now the most requested passengers and crew members for dangerous routes. Everyone wants someone who can think clearly when things go wrong. Jake smiled as he read the message. He was happy on rock bottom, fixing mining equipment and solving engineering problems. But he had to admit, he missed the excitement of space, travel. Maybe it was time for another impossible journey. After all, the galaxy was full of routes that everyone said were too dangerous to fly. And Jake had learned that too dangerous usually just meant no one has figured out the right solution yet. Humans were good at finding solutions. It was what they did best. The end of this story was really just the beginning. Jake had shown the galaxy that humans belonged among the stars, not because they were the strongest or the smartest, but because they could look at any problem and find a way to solve it. And that was amazing.